All right, next question is, what exactly do you cover in these groups? Now, of course, I can't go through in detail that big of a question, but I will give you just little bullet points, okay? I have 2 tracks of groups. They are both 1 year long. I'm going to start with my faith crisis healing track. That's where most people begin. What we talk about in there is I introduce you to your true self and to how we develop internally before we awaken to our true selves. I talk about meditation. I normalize the faith journey from the context of cycles of life. We also talk a lot about our own individual spiritual identity development, and we explore how every last one of us was passively formed spiritually. That's just normal. And then we also start talking about how we are taking that spiritual formation and we are individually choosing actively who we are becoming as spiritual beings. And we do that together in group. After that, we talk about how we are actively reclaiming our spirituality on our own terms, actually looking at teachings and practices of Mormonism and then making them our own. Or in some cases, we just opt out of certain things that don't feel resonant with our growing understanding of our true selves. We also do a lot of deep, deep work renegotiating or learning how to renegotiate relationships with more traditionally believing loved ones. This is a really big deal because almost everyone that comes to my groups has family members that are still traditionally believing, and we love and care about these relationships. And so it's a big deal to me that we really, really use what we're learning internally about ourselves and that we are able to take that growth into our relationships. Also, we learn about differentiation of self. And finally, I integrate transcending and including Mormonism throughout the whole arc of that first year of work. Okay, the second year, or I should say a second track of work, because you can start on either tracks, is my group called, well, it's my informal name is My Patriarchy Healing Groups. This is a year long also. We begin with a deep dive into the evolution of how the idea of the God-ordained family has dramatically changed. And we walk all the way from the life of Jesus to the 1980s when Ezra Taft Benson delivered his infamous To the Mothers in Zion and to the Fathers of Israel talks. Next, we learn about the language of patriarchy that was primary to so many of our spiritual identities. In other words, patriarchy was baked right into our identities, and so we learn about that so we can unlearn it and claim for ourselves who we are, not what our culture has taught us we need to be. In this group, we also go deeply into masculine and feminine energies, and we learn about how each and every one of us can become more integrated as human beings, strengthening our masculine and feminine energies, which reside in each of us. Then we go into how and why patriarchy emerged from the earliest points in human history. We talk about how God became a misogynist, how Jesus became a patriarchal pawn. Then we move into a conversation about how our brains grow in orders of consciousness, which help us better understand the healing from patriarchy process. And finally, these are fan favorites. We rewrite or we write a letter to Ezra Taft Benson, processing through how To the Mothers in Zion or To the Fathers of Israel impacted us from a place of empowerment instead of victimhood. And we end that year off rewriting several of the LDS Church's position statements using all of the love and knowledge that we have acquired in the year of our work healing from patriarchy. Fun stuff, right?